of the Never Lose a Deal podcast. Like I said, my name is Lorelia, and I'm coming to you today to discuss the topic about debt and taxes. Why understanding debt and taxes will make you wealthy. So, just in case you are new to me or new to this podcast, as I said, my name is Lorelia, and I am not new to this conversation. I have been helping real estate investors leverage capital to be able to expand their real estate portfolio, leveraging different techniques in creative financing. And so that is what I want to expand on with you today, which is why I titled it Why Debt and Taxes Will Make You Wealthy. Now, before I go into today's content, I just want to be able to give you context to what I'm going to be discussing today. I have to give context. Now, in the scheme of things, most people think that debt is a bad thing. And I can understand that. I have experience in the field of credit on my YouTube channel, depending on where you're listening to this at. But if you are listening on YouTube, on my channel, I have over 800 plus videos talking about the subject of credit and debt. So I'm very familiar with the subject. And one thing that I know that when it comes to debt, debt can be a very triggering conversation for so many people, which is why I'm putting this disclaimer out here and I am giving context to what I want to discuss today. Because the topic of what I want to talk about today is not on a elementary level. And what do I mean by elementary level? As I said, if the word debt and credit triggers you, you subscribe to the thoughts of debt is bad. I want to be debt free. Everything that I do in my business and in my personal life does not require debt. I don't want anything to do with debt. You have a story attached to it about what debt did to you a year ago, 2 years ago, many moons ago. Understand this conversation is not for you. Because when I talk about debt and taxes can make you wealthy, this is a more advanced conversation because it is for, and I'm going to primarily relate it to real estate. It is for that real estate investor who has gotten over that trauma. And that is what I want to talk about today. So that's why I had to put that disclaimer out there, because a lot of times we will listen to things, whether it's on the internet, podcast, or video, and we will try to apply it to our situation. And what happens is that a lot of people don't have the financial maturity to be able to take certain strategies and apply it to their situation. And so when you get a sound bite or something, you think that it applies to you when really you have not gotten the financial maturity to be able to take that on. So as I go into today's topic, you may be wondering, okay, Lorelia, how does debt and taxes make you wealthy? So now, like I said, for the mature professional, primarily in real estate, I want to give you different stages of where an individual may be. Now, the first stage, when it comes to you being exposed to real estate, you are at the stage of, I just want this to just happen, meaning that you need to see that as real. Like, does this actually exist? You know that real estate can provide wealth for you, but you haven't gotten to a point where you have did anything in real estate, meaning you've made a decision that real estate is the vehicle that you want to use to be able to create some type of financial security for yourself, but you're really not sure what area of real estate you want to stick your flag in. So you may have gotten exposed to fix and flips or short-term rentals or multifamilies or tax liens, real estate notes, whatever the case may be. But you still haven't quite gotten the experience. When I say experience, meaning you haven't really did anything in real estate. And so you're still in what I call the discovery phase. You're at that phase of, I just want to make it happen. I just want to make it happen. So understand, not talking to the discovery phase real estate professional, meaning they're still in the stage of, I need money, I don't know how to put this together, I really want this to happen, but just don't know where to how to do it. Not talking to that person. Then we get to the elevated, the next person. Now, this person is a semi-experienced person, meaning that they did something in real estate. They may have, dipped in some wholesaling, maybe moved on to fix and flips, doing buy and holds or what have you. And they may have did a few things and they know that, okay, you know what? I've did a few things and now I feel comfortable with saying this is where I want to stick my flag. In whatever case, whatever vehicle in real estate, like I said, it's 100 ways to skin a cat when it comes to real estate. Unfortunately, in the online space, depending on where you've got what you've gotten exposed to, there are people who just think, oh, this is just one way to do real estate. And if you've seen any of my previous videos or content, I talk about the areas that I work in, which is in real estate notes. And so if you're not familiar with real estate notes, you know that real estate notes it doesn't entail a physical asset. So you have people who will say, when they want to project it onto me, oh, Lorelia, what are you doing in real estate? And I'm like, and I tell people, okay, real estate notes. But because they're not familiar with it, they only know of physical real estate. They don't know that there are intangible areas of real estate that you can still generate passive income, build a great portfolio, what have you, but it's not tangible. Some people may only know of the intangible area of real estate when it comes to investing in REITs, maybe investing in a fund, or maybe tax liens or tax deeds. So I say that to say the second level is the semi-professional, meaning that they've did a few things and they've, said, okay, this is where I want to plant my flag, whatever area that may be. The third level is the level where a person has gotten to a place of proficiency, meaning they can do whatever the area of real estate is, their area of expertise. They know it with no shadow of the doubt. You can't doubt them, you can't waver them, you can't move them. They know it works. It's been proven. They've proven it to themselves. They're generating some kind of income. And now that they have that vehicle moving and it's generating some type of revenue, now they're able to really expand what it is that they're doing. And now they're looking for ways of, how can I sustain what it is that I have here? That is who I'm talking to today. That person understands the conversation of debt and taxes. So if you're not that person, and I've given you 3 different stages, understand the person who's in the beginning stage, of course, this is a conversation you may be listening to, but a lot of times they may not pertain to you. So don't be alarmed if some of the information I share with you may seem triggering, because a lot of times when you're in that beginning stage, you're at that stage of, I just need money, I just don't know how to do this, and you still are a little fearful of leveraging different forms of capital. But with that being said, let's go into it. Debt and taxes. How can it make you wealthy? Well, like I said, the experienced person is a person that, like I said, they're not going to waver. They know what it is that they do it well, and now they have some sustainability within their real estate business. But they want to be able to really be able to replicate and continue to preserve what it is that they have. And so when it comes to debt, whenever you are looking to expand your portfolio, and one of the most overused words on the internet is leverage. And when you think of leverage, what does leverage consist of? Leverage can consist of a lot of things. It can consist of, you know, a person, people, and then a lot of times it does relate to capital. You being able to use some type of capital, whether it's bank capital, whether it's private capital, or whether it's institutional capital. And with that being said, you understand that when you take on that debt, that debt is going to be able to expand your portfolio. Because understand this, when I say wealth, wealthy people, that's a very broad term, because at the end of the day, everyone has their definition of wealth. But in the context of this video, I want to say a wealthy individual is a person who has the ability to still be able to generate revenue in their real estate business, but we're only pertaining this to real estate, and that real estate revenue 90% of the time is going to be passive, but there are things that could be active. Fix and flipping is active real estate income. Wholesaling is active real estate income. But for the sake of this conversation, passive income is income that you do not have to work for. So, in the context of this conversation, it is passive income that is going to exceed the expenses that you have for your real estate business. And so, with that being said, if the real estate investor has that desire, that's what they desire. They desire to be wealthy in the scheme of what I just said. Passive income is exceeding the expenses you have. And so you will have the ability to still maintain your lifestyle because you know you have money coming in. Now, how would one be able to achieve that scenario? And this is where the whole debt free versus debt conversation comes in. The wealthy person, in the context of what I just said, is not looking to do this debt free. And I get it. You have the talking heads of individuals like, well, no, there are plenty people who are who have did this debt free. And I'm not here to dispute that that it's not true. But in the context of understanding how debt and taxes can make one wealthy, most people who are achieving where they want the passive income to exceed the expenses that they have and still be able to generate an income, understand they're going to leverage some form of capital, whether it's institutional capital, whether it's private capital, whether it's, capital that they may have gotten from family and friends. They're looking to leverage something. So, with that being said, they know that it's going to take debt, because whether you're doing OPM, other people's money, that debt has to be used. Most wealthy people are not looking to expand their real estate portfolio using their own money. They're not looking to, oh, I want to save money in order to expand my real estate portfolio, or in order for me to do this particular real estate deal, I'm going to save money. They understand that it is going to take money, and a lot of times it's going to take leverage, and that leverage is going to be debt. But Lorelia, I get that. I understand that there's financing that is involved in a real estate transaction, but I'm still not understanding how it's going to make me wealthy. Well, the reason why it's going to make you wealthy is because this is where the tax piece comes in. Because the government, hence the IRS, it's going to reward you for taking that debt. So a topic, or not, I shouldn't say a topic, something that a lot of people are not familiar with when it comes to debt and when it comes to taxes, is that there is something called phantom income. Now, when you think about phantom, Phantom. When you think of that word, if you look it up in the dictionary, it has something to do with a ghost or what have you, meaning you can't see it. Well, wealthy individuals know that me leveraging, I buy a new piece of real estate, I'm going to use debt to be able to buy it. But the debt that I use is going to be offset by the taxes that I have to report to the government. Because remember, whenever you have debt on a piece of real estate, the asset itself has what's called depreciation. The depreciation that's going to offset the value of the asset, that in between is what's considered the phantom income, because it's income that really you can't actually see. It's income that the IRS doesn't include as part of the income that's going to be taxed. Because if you think about the tax code in regards to real estate, you can only write off the amount of taxes based on the amount of income that you receive. So if you are a business owner, and and even if you are a W-2 employee, you think about the W-2 employee who may invest in real estate on the side, still can be a real estate investor with the different categories that I mentioned, or the real estate, investor who does this biz full time. If they are generating a W-2 income, or even if they have business income from their business activities, we're not talking about real estate, that is taxed at a different tax bracket than the real estate. The real estate is taxed different if it's passively. Because remember, I said you can have different types of real estate investors. There are real estate investors who invest in real estate on an active level. That is going to be considered their business income if they're structured right or what have you. That's not the scope of this conversation of how their business is structured. But let's just say, to make things clean and for me to make a point with this conversation, that business income for that active real estate investor is going to be taxed different, higher tax bracket, even if they're making very good money. And of course, good money is relative, but I'm going to say, even if they're making over 250K in active real estate, income, it's going to be in a higher tax bracket. And then, of course, in the expenses that offset that, if they are generating a profit, it's going to be taxed at a different, tax bracket. Now, of course, if it's a loss, nothing's going to get taxed. But when it comes to real estate on a passive level, the passive income from a real estate entity is taxed at a very much lower tax bracket. So that is why when I say debt and taxes can make you wealthy, is because what strips many people of their wealth is the ability for them to pay taxes. Now, I know you may be wondering, well, Aurelia, this tax conversation, isn't it for accountants? Isn't this something that I should be discussing with my accountant? Yes, you should. But this is one thing that I notice, is that when it comes to financing, when it comes to being able to leverage some form of debt on the real estate purchase that an investor wants to make, the examination or the analysis of what I just mentioned to you is not done until the end of the year. Imagine a real estate investor, and understand this is done by a lot of experienced. Remember, I said the different levels of the real estate investor, the one who's at the discovery, they just, they just have the idea, but it hasn't come to fruition. Then you have the semi experienced person. They have done some things, they know it is possible, they know what the possibilities can be because they've had some experience, and now they're just finding a place of where they want to stake their flag. And then you have the person who is experienced, meaning they know what it is that they do. It is generating revenue. They can really see full out how this is going to give them freedom. And with that being said, those individuals are really at at a place in their business where they are doing forecasting, because they understand the power of being able to leverage debt. They get it. They don't need to be convinced. They're not trying to do things by being debt free. They are open to different areas of being able to leverage debt. And so they go into the understanding of, I know I'm going to buy this asset. It's going to expand my real estate portfolio. But my win is going to be that when I reported on my taxes, my tax during my taxes or my tax form, the government is going to reward me for being able to offset the income that I'm receiving from the different forms of expenses, whether it's depreciation or expenses on the asset. And so the experienced investor knows that this is what it's going to take in order for them to build their wealth and to be able to expand their portfolio. Case in point, when I did my last video, I talked about Gator Lending. And I know I talked about it from the standpoint of, is it predatory? Now, that was a video really relating to the end person, the person who is seeking lending. But now let's take a step back. Let's take that same video, but now let's look at it from the standpoint of the real estate investor. Once again, they are experienced, they've did some things, they know, what's going to give them the freedom that they want to be able to build wealth for their business or their family or whatever their legacy may be. And they feel like lending is going to be part of it. Now, a lot of times when we think about lending, we think of it in the scheme of institutional bankers, maybe hard money lenders, but we never look at it from the standpoint of from the private lending standpoint. Private lenders can be just like me and you. That of course, it's gonna take some capital. So when I say me and you, I am not talking about for the person on the other end, not the person who ain't got nothing, but the person who does have some actual capital set aside. Maybe that's in some type in your bank account, maybe it's in an IRA, maybe you have it in an insurance policy, wherever the income comes from. But when you lend it out and the payments that come to you when you act as the bank, remember using the Gator lending example, you're the Gator, you're lending out the money to the investors who need the money. They pay you back. The money that you receive, it's going to be passive. It's going to be passive money because you're not actively involved. You're just lending it. So with you lending it, once again, you being in the position of the bank, and it's a passive source of income that comes to you because you're not actively involved in that actual transaction. Now, of course, everything taken to an account that your business is structured right, and everything else. But with that being said, and of course you're following all the guidelines of the state, that income that comes to you is coming to you at on a passive level. And when you start to leverage the understanding of, okay, in this example that I'm using, it's not going to take no debt because you have access to the income. But in order for you to even get to that place, you may have had to leverage debt in the beginning. Because for the person who's listening to me and is saying to themselves, well, that is where I want to get to. I want to get into the lending seat. Because a lot of times when we think about these private lenders or with the Gator lending, we're thinking of, oh, they got millions and millions and millions of dollars. And a lot of times that's not the case. You know, I gave an example in the last video where I said, imagine if you could just leverage capital that maybe you've gotten, from a credit card or from a line of credit. Now, all things taken into consideration. I mean, you want to, you want to look at the yield and the interest rates and other stuff. You still want to go, like I said, just go all out doing things, and you don't really understand the money of it. But when you truly understand the economics of real estate, a lot of times it's going to require debt. And when you pair understanding debt and being able to leverage the tax law that can offset that debt, because remember, the debt is going to be written off every year. Every year. You're not taxed as heavily as if it was active income. So it allows you to continue to build your wealth. And that is why I said that an experienced real estate investor is going to be able to forecast what is it going to look like that when I leverage this capital into the new asset that I'm purchasing, how does that help me economically in terms of my portfolio, in terms of me paying less in taxes? The list goes on and on and on. Because remember, that investor has graduated from the semi-investor who just wants to make money. Because going back to the investor who is really at the discovery phase, their only thing is that how can I, a lot of times it's like, how can I get rich? I just want to be able to get rich off this one piece of real estate. And a lot of times that's not the case, because what is going to take is probably going to be, it's going to take time. Very rarely does a person buy one piece of real estate and they shoot it out, they out of the park, and they become an instant real estate billionaire. As bad as the people want you to believe that, on the internet, that's not how it goes. It takes time. And so when a real estate investor has elevated and has passed the stage of, I just need money, especially when it comes to the internet. A lot of times people start as a wholesaler. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, I started as a wholesaler too. The reason why I understand this elevation is because I once was the person who just wanted to just make money. You know, uh, I do this wholesale deal. I put something under contract. I resell it. I get a payment for it. But then I begin to develop and grow. And that is when I started to now take that income and invest it in a actual real estate vehicle that can produce me income. And then once I did that, I elevated to a next stage where now, being at the age of 50, I'm not lured on, is this going to make me a millionaire overnight? Because I understand wealth takes time. Now, everyone has their own road to how they're going to get to their road of wealth. Like I said, in the context of this video, wealth being your passive income exceeds your expenses. That's money working for you that you don't have to actively work for. And once again, that picture is different for everyone. So for someone to just say it's only this way, that's not it, because it's going to be based on what you enjoy doing, what you invest in, but understand the correlation of how debt works and how taxes work. And let me just say this is the reason why it is so important to do forecasting when you decide to take on debt, when you decide to leverage capital, because in this online space of the internet, we've had a few years where people have blindly shared with people, told people how they were going to be these instant real estate millionaires by being able to leverage forms of capital when individuals didn't really even understand what they were doing. Like I said, if you're watching me on YouTube, you know that I'm not new to this conversation. I have been talking about leveraging capital, leveraging credit in regards to real estate since 2018. But whenever I talked about it from a standpoint of having a understanding. Not that I'm saying that everything that I say is right, but I have been a big advocate of saying a lot of people are not ready for the conversation. They're not ready because there are still some healing that some individuals have to go through. If you have not been a good steward of anything small, a lot of times people haven't even gotten over the trauma. You trying to do big things, it's not going to work, which is why I said conversation of debt and taxes is triggering for people. I'm a big advocate of you want to expand your portfolio when it comes to real estate. You want to take on debt. But when you understand that you using that debt is going to be offset by the taxes that you have to report on your tax return, it becomes a win. It becomes a win. But for that person who's thinking, "Oh, how can I buy this piece of real estate, debt free?" Like I said, I'm not your person. I get it that there may be people out there who you can build a very big portfolio and you're going to do it all with your money. But who does that? Who wants to liquefy their liquid cash to be able to just buy a piece of property for free? It just, like I said, it just doesn't make sense to me, because when I can just, be able to leverage capital. And once again, it depends on the type of capital you want to use. There's different forms of capital. There's institutional capital, there's hard money lending capital, there's private lending capital. And primarily this quarter, I'm going to be talking a lot about the debt conversation, primarily when it comes to raising capital, because this is the area that most people do not understand. They are trying to get around how they can understand, not understand the economics of debt, but yet and still be able to build a real estate portfolio. And whether you want to believe this or not, the individuals that you may be looking at who you feel successfully are doing things in real estate, they are leveraging some form of capital. They are. They may not tell you that, but they are. And this is what I'm going to guarantee: they understand the economics of what it is that they are doing. That is why you need to understand the correlation between debt and between taxes and uh and income, and what it is that you really want to do. Because once you understand all those components, it's there you will find your sweet spot. So once again, this is Lorelia. Like I said, I'm going to be talking a lot about the conversation of debt, how it relates to real estate, now that we're in a new quarter. But I just also want to share with people, I am going to be doing a raising capital summer accelerator this month. Actually, I'm going to be doing it this week. I only really shared it with my email communication list. So make sure you go to www.neverloseadeal.com so you can learn more. And this summer accelerator is really going to talk about raising capital, not raising capital in the sense of I just want your money. No, raising capital in the sense of they're private lenders, like I said, who understand this conversation that I was just talking about. They understand debt, they understand leveraging debt, they want to leverage debt, they understand how it can economically make them wealthier. And I'm talking about being able to raise capital from individuals who understand this conversation. When I talk about private lenders, I'm not talking about hard money lenders. I'm talking about private lenders who have private money that they're looking to lend. They get it, they understand it. I'm not talking about raising capital from people that you want to take advantage of, people who don't know nothing about no real estate, and you selling them on, they're going to be an instant millionaire. We're not talking about raising capital for a fund. What I'm talking about is your ability to be able to position what you do, how you do it, because once again, you're the real estate investor who's at that point where what it is that you do, you know it cold, you know it works, it's been proven, you can communicate it to someone. And I want to talk about in this workshop that I'm going to be doing, it's going to go from, like I said, July 10th all the way to August. It's going to be every other week. It's for 4 weeks. And we're going to talk more about that. I'm going to share with people what I've been doing and what I have been able to do with private lenders that I am working with. Once again, this is Aurelia. One thing I do, I always show receipts. This is not just good conversation. Everything I do, I can show receipts on it. And I'm going to be doing more of that to share with you some of the wins of how this works. So, like I said, it's for people who are at a certain level. This is not a way for you to trick people. And it's not for you trying to run the play on individuals. I'm talking about how to do this legally, ethically, as well as keep your reputation intact. So, like I said, to learn more, get on my email communication list as www.neverloseadeal.com. No, I don't have no website, so you can't go to a website to learn more about it. Got to be on my email communication list to learn more about it. But as always, I'll see you in the next podcast episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And if you listen to the podcast, please rate it and let me know what you think. Okay. Have a good night. Bye-bye.